Shalom, 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 shalom. I'm going to start off by giving all praise, honor, and all glory to call Loyim La Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem HaKadosh, double honors to the elders, to the apostles that I learned this truth from. Peace and salutations to the Akim across the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth with faith and with sincerity, as well as risking their lives and their freedom to do so, now more so than ever. Shalom to the Akim and the Aqua that they're listening and learning. Lord willingly, this is edifying. Shalom to the Israelite foreigners scattered abroad, in the land of other nations appearing like the other nations, and whom subscribe to this truth. To you, say shalom. It's Brother Yavasop, coming at you another lesson through the Spirit, through the power of Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai. Yahweh meaning He is, He exists, or He to be. By Hashem, by His and His thus in His name. Yahushai meaning He saves, or He deliverer. True names of Most High God and His Son, who people ignorantly call God and Jesus Christ, but whose true name in the Paleo Hebrew is Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai. This lesson is pretty much inspired by I was going through my Newsbreak articles, and I remember the elder saying he got snap fatigue, which I could understand. He probably don't have to deal with it. I know his brothers that don't have to deal with it, and I know his brothers that deal with it. I want the brothers that deal with this to a degree, but it's not even I'm concerned or worried or shook or anything. I think I keep going into it because I'm really sitting back and I'm just noticing, like, this motherfucker lying, the devil lying. So, it's just like something within my spirit, like, let me know, like, it's more to this. Scriptures tell you, I'm gonna actually get it in the book of because the scriptures talk about basically I think it's in the Psalms that say, I've never seen the righteous seed begging for bread. So we know, because we trust and we have faith in Yahweh Shem Yahushua, that the Lord is going to take care of us. I got testimonies to this. Remember, brother did a video. I asked him for a can of beans because I didn't want to go. It was late. It was one of the days when we had our we did our group video or whatever. I asked brother for a can of beans, and that inspired that brother to do a video or a lesson. Well, he did the camp did the lesson. That inspired him to say how we was going to eat. And I truly believe that, the Lord been taking care of us all this time. Why wouldn't He take care of us, through the duration? Are we going to miss some meals? I'm sure, Are we going to, but we're going to be the better for it, You got to understand, scriptures talk about living more in the spirit as opposed to in the flesh, I was just reading that in, I think, Ephesians. With that all being said, this is the book of Ecclesiasticus, or the book of Sirach, chapter 12, starting at verse 10, and it reads, "Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness." And, we know, I know that they're trying to paint a picture of, this devil not being your enemy. Satan is, it is the year of the snake, too. And, you got Vocab Malone and Ren and Stimpy, and, you got all these different things going on. It's comical to a degree, but it's really not funny at all. It's actually should have you in the spirit of being circumspect, and fear. Again, I know that one brother. I don't know his name. I know it started with a H. I know one is a deacon, and then the other one, I don't know his position, but I know he came seeking, answers from the elders, and for whatever reason, I didn't watch the video. I don't know if he came, his spirit wasn't right. I don't know. I know when I asked, can I still come to the camp, and they was like, no. Well, one particular brother was like, no, and I could have been an asshole, like, you don't own the sidewalk, but no, that's the spirit. You know what I mean? I never tried to attempt to go. Brother hit me with that. He was like, I don't know. He didn't know what to tell me, But I don't want to offend nobody, and I don't want to be offended. Time. They say time does heal all wounds. So but at the same time, the spirit hasn't been on me to pop up either. So with all that being said, it's like I'm all over the place. I was just thinking about, like, with this devil, because I did a video earlier about Richard Wolff. If you're not familiar with him, he's an economist. And he got this series he got going on pretty much about the government shutdown. And he was saying how this was all systematically done. And when you take time to think about it, it make a lot of sense. I don't think we getting the stamps back. You know, I was watching videos, brothers was posting videos. You got Eve talking about pretty much mid-November they was gonna start cutting HUD or Section 8. And we a little bit after mid-November, right? And then I'm seeing articles that's speaking on that. Matter of fact, this is what's going on with SNAP, everything you need to know. So I literally, like I said again, they said they was lowering my steps. And like I said, I'm only speaking on this just to give brothers heads up. You know what I mean? It's not, I mean, like, I know not to tell all my business for real, but at the same time, it's a reason why the Lord had me go. I noticed that the Lord sometimes takes me through specific type of shit for a reason, you know what I mean? So if it's to help the body or it can help a brother, you know, just to have a heads up, I would rather know than not know, you know what I'm saying? So it says millions of Americans are at risk of permanently losing SNAP benefits just days after the federal government reopened and restored assistance. And when you take the time to think about the timing of it, you know what I mean? This was all systematically designed. When he came, this is from the words of the guy, Richard Wolff. So he was like, pretty much, you got to remember, you had the Doge, they came in, they pretty much said all this fraud and shit. Pretty much the fraud eliminated jobs and whatnot. They start, basically cutting that and eliminated the jobs. Then the next thing was pretty much the government shutdown. But at the same time, you had the SNAP benefits get cut. In this particular order, the November, pretty much nobody got them. Now, they said that some people got theirs. You know, it said some people got partial payments. I have yet to get anything. Now, again, I'm not really concerned about it. I'm not really worried. You know, I'm not trying to brag or whatnot. The Lord got me. I should have said it like that as opposed to say I got food, you know. But I'm living right now, you know, as far as I'm not worried or stressing out about it. But to get such a broad answer about, you know, you're supposed to get, they didn't give you a definite date. So like I said again, I don't know. I know certain people was receiving theirs. I know in certain states people was receiving theirs. But I know also some people haven't received theirs yet. So again, like the elder had made the statement, he said he could see certain people getting it and certain people not. Again, they lowered mine and then they pretty much took me off of it. Someone I didn't turn in paperwork. Then come to find out they never uploaded the paperwork, so that was just Satan. So then they uploaded it and like, okay, yours is there. So I'm like, okay, but they ain't got a date to show me or tell me when it's gonna actually pop up on there. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I would be surprised if I get it, and I wouldn't be surprised if I don't get it. Because again, you got too many articles, and like that just said, it says at the end of the day, millions gonna lose these benefits. It says because you got all these work requirements. You know, you got people that don't qualify because they got children. Like I knew a female, she was getting benefits, and her daughter was 18. Now, you know, once they get 18, I don't think they qualify anymore or whatnot. But individuals like that, like when the child gets a certain age, they won't qualify. It says, according to ABC News, SNAP, which helps nearly 42 million low-income Americans afford food, is being reshaped under USDA's guidance tied to President Donald Trump's Big Beautiful Bill. And when you take the time to think about it, they signed the bill and all these different measures kicked in this month, November. Just like in October, they passed that stablecoin thing. I mean, again, it's not by coincidence. You got to understand this devil is crafty. So the scriptures tell you, never trust thine enemy. Ecclesiasticus of Sirach, chapter 12 and verse 10, it says, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness, and this man is truly our enemy. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed, and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped the looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away. Set him not by thee, lest when he have overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat, and thou at the last remember my words and be pricked therewith. And I think the book of Esther talks about, you know, because it's an addition to Esther in the Apocrypha, and I think it goes into Haman and pretty much how Haman was pretty much going to try to usurp Xerxes, Artaxerxes. So that when I read that, it makes me think of that situation with Haman Malone. And if he got Ren and Stimpy, that's just, you know what I mean, again, you know, the Lord gonna put everybody where the Lord want them to be at. You know, if they of the elect, they gonna wake up out of that shit. But, you know, a lot of these people is doing, I was listening to a particular elder who was saying how you got one elder and he was going into how you got men that's literally, pretty much changing doctrine and basically trying to conform to the world. Scriptures tell us in Romans chapter 12, we are not conformed to the world, damn, I don't want to butcher it, but I don't feel like getting it either. But make our bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to the Most High, which is our reasonable service. Let him sit at the right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat, and thou at the last remember my words and be pricked therewith. Who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent, or any such as come nigh wild beasts? And just like with those two individuals, like I said, when vocab do whatever he do, because again, I personally believe through the Spirit. I mean, just for what I've seen with my personal eyes, I don't trust. I remember that one pastor. I can't think of his name. I know one of the head brothers would know who I'm talking about. Ricky Gantz, something like that. Ricky something, and he used to talk to vocab, and brothers was up there. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't give vocab the location, because vocab couldn't figure out where we was at. I think his name was Ricky Gantz, but the point is, the individuals like that, they used to walk around with cameras on, coming in a manner that is like conniving or deceitful. Why do you feel you need to do that? Because you're trying to get it or try to get a particular response out of us. And you can see that all day with vocab. He's surprised that brothers is so much in what's the word? They got pretty much rule over their spirits, because you could tell he purposely invokes and tries to do things purposely. That's why he overtalks people and yada yada yada. All the little simple shit to garner a response. This is the book of Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 16, and I'm gonna start at verse 14, and it reads, Wherefore he saith, Awake thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead, and Mashiach shall give thee light, which is the truth. See then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. Redeeming goes into pretty much doing your most, putting your best foot forward. But these days are truly evil. Again, I don't believe this is by happenstance at all. Like the guy Richard Wolff was breaking it down. He was like, pretty much, you got to understand, the United States has borrowed more money than they've ever borrowed in history. And these bankers want, they pay interest on this shit. And when you take time to really fathom, I didn't really think about how much money is spent with this government until you think about how much they spend on the food assistance. And that's why, like I said, I was making mention of it earlier, like literally, like Donald Trump is like, he's like liquidating the company, It's like he's selling off different parts of the country because he's trying to orchestrate a systematic controlled demolition of this place, and that's why they're doing it the way they're doing it, because again, everything that's doing this is going to affect the whole complete country. Food stamps not only is going to affect these low income homes and families. It's going to affect these stores. It's going to affect these businesses. I work at a spot that they deal with a particular product that these stores use. And I'm looking at it's not too many customers buying this shit. You know what I'm saying? And which is a domino effect. I was watching, or I seen an article where it's talking about all the Denny's in the country. And I think it was like over 30,000 or something, all closed. I think they trying to sell them all, or they selling them all because of the fact, that's how bad the economy doing. I wouldn't be surprised if Cracker Barrel's next. All these different, they said McDonald's dollar menu is, because McDonald's got their ear to the streets. McDonald's, they brought back that dollar menu, and that shit really didn't do what they thought it was going to do, because people don't have no fucking extra money. So yeah, you gotta be being circumspect. Like the brother said, it don't take rocket science. You gotta use your brain though. Certain things is common sense, and when you sit back and meditate on it, and if the Lord dealing with you, you'll be surprised the epiphanies that the Heavenly Father gave you. Ezekiel 5 and verse 16, because ultimately the Lord about to break the staff of bread. Pretty soon, it ain't even the fact that you can't or you don't have access to food. You might can't. Well, it is you don't have access to food because if you can't afford the food, that's a famine. And again, like I say, I can see them being systematic on who they're gonna give shit to and who they don't. I made a video based on that. I said, again, food can be utilized to make war. And again, they know who everybody is. I constantly say that. What do you think? Charles White made a statement. He said, the most dangerous thing this devil can have is the knowledge of who you are, especially if he consider you his enemy. And that's the reason why they want that digital ID. So they can actually know who is doing what online, to be able to maneuver through their society. And like I said, they don't necessarily have to come, to your home. They could just go ahead, oh, you can't get a job. You can't rent a home, Now, again, I don't know everything, and I'm just speaking as a man, but it's just something auspicious about how they did this shit. The timing of it was too perfect. Just like it's too perfect that they only had enough funds to get us to October. I mean, when you take time to think about it, like, literally, that's not very far away. We almost about to be in fucking December in, like, what? A week and a half, if that. This is the book of Ezekiel chapter 5 and verse 16. When I shall send upon them the evil arrows of famine, which the Lord is doing right now, because you got people that's not eating, I thought that they was really going, again, that's how you know it's kind of controlled, because as fucked up as they is, they was talking about how he was going into, the guy Richard Wolff was going into the buku amount of money that DJ Trump has spent on ICE. With these signing bonuses and whatnot, because he's trying to have individuals loyal to him when this shit go down, which is stupid, because you're gonna have military that's not getting paid, but you're gonna have ICE agents that's getting paid. You got military that's not getting paid, but you're gonna have the FBI and the CIA that's getting paid. Like, you just see how much division that this devil has brought to his own kingdom. Says, when I shall send upon them the evil arrows of famine, which shall be for their destruction, and which I will send to destroy you, I will increase the famine upon you and will break your staff of bread. So will I send upon you famine and evil beasts, and they shall bereave thee, and pestilence and blood shall pass through thee, and I will bring the sword upon thee. I, the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushua, have spoken it. Those four sword judgments. And it ain't saying it. I think that's in Ezekiel, like 20 or something like that, 21. I can't remember. But point being, that's pretty much the same thing, though. And the Lord going to be bringing these different plagues and pestilences and these different judgments, but also he's going to be with and protecting and nurturing and feeding his elect. So those were just some, thoughts that passed through my mind. The Lord is in the spirit of, I was just thinking, because they literally was just talking about how, the power grid is pretty much, it's an emergency been called, the power grid is in jeopardy, so it's too many different things going on, That's why I'm just in the spirit, like, you got to be in double Dutch mode. You got to stay locked into the spirit. You got to be having your head on the swivel. Because this shit can go down at any time. If you're so-called Black, Hispanic, Native American, Seminole Indian, West Indian, or Haitian, I implore you to come back to the laws, statutes, commandments of your power, whose true name in the Paleo Hebrew is Yahweh, Shem Yahushua, you will be destroyed. With that, I want to give all praise, all honor, and all glory to call Allah Yahweh, Shem Yahushua, Shem Hakodash. Double honors to the elders, to the apostles that I learned this truth from. Peace and salutations to the Akim across the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth with faith and with sincerity, as well as risking their lives and the freedom to do so, now more so than ever. Shalom to the Akim and the Aqua thought they're listening and learning. Lord willingly, this is edifying. Shalom to the Israelite foreigners scattered abroad in the land of other nations, appearing like the other nations, but subscribe to the truth. To you, I say shalom. Till next time, Lord willingly, shalom, shalom. Kwam Yasharallah and Mawat Lababal.